Hi, and welcome to the LesParis.com podcast. I'm Les. This podcast is a short daily monologue that you can listen to. Use it to practice listening to English. Use it to stimulate ideas. Use it for BGM.
Hello, and welcome to the 7th episode of the Les Paris podcast. In the last podcast, I talked about toast and how it is not the same as bread. In this episode, I want to talk about watches. There's all sorts of things to say about watches, but I have only a short time. I have a business, and I want to run my business better. So I joined a mailing list. The man sends me emails about how I can make my business better. In one of his emails, he talked about watches. He talked about how he didn't have a watch for many, many years. But when the Apple smartwatch came out, he was interested in it. And so he bought a smartwatch. And then he became more interested and started to learn about other smartwatches, and his passion developed. He started to look into fashion watches and status watches. Rolex is a popular brand name, and it's a status symbol among watches. All the parts are made with the finest quality materials, and it's really, really sharp. They come in many shapes and sizes. There's also watches that are timeless pieces. They were made a long time ago. They're very valuable and at the same time simple. Some of the watches today are still operating from a hand crank, I'd like to say. You wind it up. It's a wind-up watch. But other watches run from batteries, and yet other watches are using the sun or light to make them go. As I said, there's all sorts of watches. Even more amazing is the diversity of prices for these watches. Some of the watches are dirt cheap. You can get them in a 100 yen store or a dollar store. Other watches are thousands of dollars, even tens of thousands of dollars. I think there's watches out there that are more expensive than my car, and I just can't understand why people would buy such a thing. On the other hand, there's a lot of things in this world that I can't understand. Do you like watches too? I actually don't like watches. I find the hardest part of the watch is remembering to put it on and remembering to take it off. And I almost inevitably forget it or lose it just when I get used to it. So I've decided not to wear a watch. How about you? Now we've come to the end of the 7th episode. I hope you got some interesting insights about watches after listening to this podcast episode. It was fun researching and fun talking about watches today. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Tomorrow's podcast is about bears. So, come back again tomorrow.